Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Karen Aroney. She's the founder and CEO of ExecFuel, and she delivers premium nutrition programs designed to help high achieving individuals transform their health and life. Welcome to the show, Karen.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Karan. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about leadership, how they can fuel their leadership energy. We'll talk in this backdrop. But before that, Karan, let's understand a bit about your journey, your background, so that people know who they are listening to.
Sure. I'll tell you a little bit about my journey first before we talk about my expertise. So I was in corporate, I would say 20, 25 years ago. And one of the things about being in the corporate world that I found quite challenging was having the energy that I needed to keep up with that particular environment. So the output that was expected of me, hitting my KPIs, achieving those goals. And one of the things that I was seeing when I was in corporate and working in that corporate environment was the people around me, not just myself, were suffering from a lot of health issues as a result. Now, we're talking 20, 25 years ago. Things have changed, not so much these days, but people are far more aware that they really need to check in with themselves, their energy levels, their self-care, their fitness, their nutrition. But back then, there was a lot of demand and expectations that were placed on us. And so with that, my own health was deteriorating. I saw my peers' health was also deteriorating. And simultaneously at that time too, when I was quite young, my mother was also diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. And that to me was probably my trigger for then entering the world of nutrition. So leaving the corporate arena and entering more into nutrition for busy professionals and high achievers, which has now brought me to the type of work that I do now. So for the last 15 years or so, I have been working closely with high performers, high achievers, both busy professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners, to help them with their nutrition. Because whilst they are very good at running their businesses, driving profit, being quite driven themselves, the one thing that they're not so good at and where they feel quite stuck is with their health and their nutrition. So predominantly for the last 15 years, I have been working very closely with this type of high performer to help them elevate from not just being healthy, eating well, feeling good, having the energy that they need, but then also how does that then transpire into how they perform in their career, in their work, in their businesses, and how they show up. So that's me in a nutshell.
Absolutely correct. So I want to understand, see, energy, nutrition, everyone needs. Why is it that leaders needs that extra sort of a attention in terms of nutrition and energy? I thought they are very responsible people. They can take care of themselves. Help us understand.
Yes.
Normal people, do you think they are not taking care of themselves, that they need, they don't need you? I'm just wanting to understand from that sort of a background, what's the difference between the common man and these leaders?
Right. So I think once you initially take on the role of leadership, it really comes with a different type of sustainability aspect, but also a type of characteristic that differs from the average person. I think when you step into leadership, especially when it comes to kind, courageous, empathetic leadership, where you have to show not just leadership skills and output skills, but also, emotional intelligence, for example. That's a lot of things that one person really needs to have as a bit of a skill set when they step into this particular role. And to be able to lead in this particular role, leaders need to also demonstrate that they themselves are quite healthy, both physically and mentally. So you can't really emulate or aspire to be a great leader or follow somebody who is a great leader if they themselves are not showing that type of leadership or that self-care with themselves as well. And so what I also find is when you step into a leadership position, because of the numerous decisions that need to be made, because you're really thinking on the spot a lot of the time, because you're constantly thinking about strategy, the one thing that seems to take away from that is your own time your own self-care and how you manage your own time, because you really are quite absorbed in all of the other facets of leadership as well. And so I do agree with you. We have these expectations that leaders can do everything. Why can't they take care of themselves as well properly? I think it really is because they do try and sustain a very high level of performance, and that this usually then leads to burnout.
Absolutely, Karan. So when you talk about personalized nutrition, what does it mean? Means, do they need to eat something specific? Beyond the things that we have. Help us understand what is this personalized nutrition for high performing people or top leadership.
Yeah. So the thing about nutrition is it is actually quite unique to everybody. I know we hear this a lot, and then we think to ourselves, well, how unique can I possibly be? But with the type of work that I do, we've really delved into a lot of evidence-based strategies that encompass what nutrition and real nutrition and sustainable nutrition actually means to a person. And so there are three key pillars that we really focus on when it comes to personalizing your nutrition. The first one is nutrition itself. So whether that means at its most top level, we take care of intolerances or any allergies or foods that you like or dislike, or some more superficial understanding of what food might look like for a person. We also have to take into account cultural nuances, right? So nutrition is not just about the food. It really is ingrained culturally for us, socially, how we grew up in a particular culture, in a particular family, how we view food from an emotional perspective. So nutrition can also encompass a lot of that aspect to it as well. The other thing around nutrition itself, before we get into the other two pillars, is that it can really be affected by somebody's schedule and their timing. So not, especially in leadership, a lot of leaders don't have particularly static hours. Okay, they're quite dynamic. Some may be traveling 80% of 90% of the year. Some may be having to entertain clients 3 nights a week, for example. Some may have to be on stage on a very regular basis, actually performing and presenting. So we need to make sure that their nutrition is quite personalized to make sure that their energy levels are maintained and sustained. Then we look at another pillar, which is psychology. So the mindset around nutrition has to be quite personalized for this particular person as well. So whether that be you have a relationship with food which is quite emotional. A lot of us do have some emotional eating that's attached to us, whether we do it because of boredom, sadness, irritation, frustration. Some of us tend to eat because we're not hungry. Other ways is how we view food. We may have likes or dislikes, but we may be adverse to certain foods because of past experiences that weren't so favorable to us. So we look at how do we then look at your emotional response to food, your psychological response to food, and how you treat food from a psychology perspective. And then the last pillar that we look at when it comes to personalized nutrition is how do we integrate those previous pillars I talked about, so nutrition and psychology, into your lifestyle so that it is sustainable. Because we really could just put a blanket nutrition meal plan in place for you. But if that doesn't actually fit in with your particular lifestyle, say, for example, you're somebody who doesn't like to meal prep or plan ahead or doesn't have the time and energy to do this, it's highly unlikely that you'll stick to that particular meal plan, isn't it? It's because it doesn't actually fit in with your particular lifestyle or the way you are working long hours, or you're socializing, or you have other family or career obligations that you need to meet. So that's why we call it personalized nutrition, because it really needs to look at each individual for it to actually work.
Absolutely. And so when and how do you come into the picture? ExecFuel, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. How do you come into a leader's life, and how do you get them started into this program?
Right. So what we do is initially when a leader wants to approach me around their nutrition, some of their reasons for that is because they either want to lose some weight, or they're feeling drained of their energy, or they're seeking ways to actually start to eat healthier for longevity. So they've realized that this is really, their lifestyle is really quite unsustainable, and they want to be healthier for their families. Or they approach me because they realize that, they need to get or want to get to another position, but they really can't get there because they're just not feeling at their best at the moment, and they know this. So when they approach me, we really look at those factors first and say, well, what is your why? Why are you coming to me? Why is it about nutrition that you've approached me, and what do you envision yourself in 6 months' time looking, acting, feeling like? Okay. And so from there, once we can articulate why that person is actually approaching me about nutrition and wants to be put into one of the programs that I run, then we go through what we call a nutrition blueprint. And so with that particular blueprint, when somebody approaches me, we then get you into our program, and we start to run a couple of metabolic test panels to see what you're looking like internally. We would perhaps have a DEXA scan. Have you heard of a DEXA scan before, where we measure your body composition to see, what your muscle mass looks like at the moment, what your body fat might look like at the moment, what your bone mass density looks like at the moment. It could be quite high or could be low. And then from there, we have a kickoff session where we really start to discuss, okay, here is where you are at right now. This is A, and this is how we're going to look to get you to point B. And so from there, we tailor the program between, say, 1, 3, and 6 months to get you to those points where you're actually getting the results that you want from your goals. So initially, we do, first of all, understand where you're coming from, why you're wanting to do this, because your why holds you there. And then from there, we run a few physical tests for you. We go through those together, and then we put you into the right type of structure for you to actually get the wins at the end.
Absolutely. So how do you determine whether the leadership has got some nutrition deficiency, mindset deficiency, or they are simply irresponsible people? How do you? Because it's a typical task to tell them, on their face.
Yes, it is. I love that. That's probably the best question I've ever been asked, by the way. So I think the nutrition deficiencies are quite obvious. We do run metabolic test panels. I do run allergy tests. We do run blood tests, so we can see exactly where those nutrition deficiencies are held. Psychologically, it's an interesting one. My background is also in psychology, so I'm a psychologist and a nutritionist as well. And so what I then do is we work through what we call cognitive behavioral therapy, which you've probably heard of, which is CBT, and we call it the catch it, check it, change it method. And from there, I really try and ask some very specific questions around their relationship with nutrition and food. And these can stem all the way back from childhood, or they may have been developed quite early on in the process of them going into a certain career, feeling those stress levels. We also do measure stress. And how stress is affecting both their professional setting, but also their personal setting. And then we look into, right, if we can navigate and understand what your nutritional deficiencies are, where you're at psychologically, and then we can determine what the best course of action is from there. And usually we put together a structure that works quite well to suit that leader's lifestyle and the demands of their career, but also their personal life as well. And yes, you're right. There are some leaders that can be a little bit stuck, can be a little bit unsure if this is the right thing for them. However, the one thing I do remind these leaders is if you are approaching me, there's a reason why you approached me in the programs in the first place, right? And if your why is strong enough, then you would be willing and ready to start even the smallest adaptation or change that we discuss. But it's quite personalized, so they do get quite a bit of support throughout the program anyway, to make sure that they're getting checked in on, and the accountability is very strong.
Absolutely. I was about to come to that accountability part, because you make a program for them, they get back into busy lives. How do you ensure that they are following that program? Because they had not been following. That is why they needed to come to you. How do they take that piece of paper or all the reports or whatever nutrition things they have got, and then they go back into their schedules? Who does it for them? They can't have a person just to track everything for them, or can they?
This is a very good question to ask. So in terms of accountability, there's a couple of ways that we keep leaders accountable. One, there's obviously me. So we have regular check-ins, and these can be, all of my work is online, so it's Zoom check-ins, or they can be via an app that we use together that we contact each other on a 24/7 basis. So when you are in the VIP premium programs, you do have 24/7 access via this app to me, and I can help you answer any of your sticking points or any questions that you have. I also use it as an accountability check-in for these leaders. The second way that we do that is, as I mentioned earlier, regular Zoom sessions. However, aside from me, because this is a really good question in terms of accountability, because this is where most people, not just leaders, struggle with keeping themselves on track, is setting your environment up for success, which is something that I talk about quite regularly in my program, in the modules. There's an online course that's associated with my program. There's modules on this as well. When we set up an environment for success, we look at ways that our environment supports us, not sabotages us. Okay, so if there's certain areas in your actual environment, whether that's the people that you are spending your time with, whether that's you not having enough support in your home life or your work life, whether that is the types of events that you're attending, we try and create an environment throughout the time in the program where leaders are feeling quite set up. So it takes away a lot of that mental decision fatigue, right? And once we have decision fatigue, of course, we're going to say no. A confused mind says no. We know that saying very well. But once we have a mind that's clear, that has clarity, that's removed a lot of those decisions for us, it's much easier to say yes, yes, yes. Okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. So we really look at setting up that environment for them where they become more successful than they have ever in the past.
Right. Let's try and look at it this way. What is the percentage of men? What is the percentage of women that come to you? Which one is the higher one?
The majority of women come to me for not necessarily my one-to-one program, but actually I run a women's group program called Empower Her. So women come to me predominantly questioning that program. And it's an interesting one. And the difference between, I guess, the male and the female subsets is that women are looking for more of a community. They're looking for somewhere where they can actually share their experiences, talk to one another, go through the program, also have my support. The males tend to see me more on a one-to-one basis because their desires, their needs, their goals are not any less directive than the women's or any less intentional, but they are happier to do it one-to-one, get it done, let me know what I need to do and I'll do it. Right? Because a lot of these men that come to see me, and women as well, but predominantly men that come to see me for this particular work, already have a team where they delegate what they need done. And I'm just another member on that team that helps them get something done that they need done. Okay, so if we think about it from that perspective, it makes far more sense. So we sort of say, right, okay, so it's nutrition. Why would that even be associated with this man's life or this woman's life? Well, I don't know about you, but I know that there are many people that are incredibly successful. And the reason they're successful is because they have experts to help them with particular things that they're not good at, right? This is how you become successful. This is just another part of that, right? The reason you're not successful in nutrition is because you're not an expert at it, nor do I expect you to be. I can be your expert for this, and I can be on your team to help you accomplish it.
Right. And who listens to you more, men or women? Who are more accountable? Who do you have to struggle with more?
This is such a cheeky question. I would say men, actually. I would say men do listen to me more. However, I do say this as a bit of a laugh too. I do have some women that are very good at listening to me. However, these women are in senior C-suite roles. Okay, so there's a particular subset of people that know when they pay for a service and they need something done, they're going to listen. And that tends to be your senior executive CEO male and your senior executive CEO female. They are usually the ones that listen the most. So it's not necessarily a male or a female thing. I think it's actually more what they do for work. The other ones that tend to listen and adhere to the program most are actually business owners. And that goes without saying, I think. I think if you're willing to run and can run a successful business, you're pretty good at taking some instruction.
Absolutely, absolutely. The whole idea is to understand the mindset, because sometimes, a woman who is struggling with, leadership with regards to fatigue and burnout and all, when they come to you, and then when we talk of nutrition, they are running their own homes, children, everything, and sometimes some advice, they would say, this is such a normal advice. Why would I need to? It becomes difficult to get the same kind of advice from, say, I don't want to put it, but another woman or another person. Do you have to ever come across a bit of, that persistence, insistence that, listen, it may be the same advice, but you also already know it, but this is something that you need to focus on, because women are good, they manage everything, but sometimes, women in leadership can be a pure woman who is also taking care of her family, and that can come into across you. How do you deal with such a situation? The reason I'm asking it, so that women can make the best out of what you do, because if I understand, you've got two companies, ExecFuel and Empower Her. So that's like to be some women-centric program.
Yes, so Empower Her is the women-centric program. Now, to answer your question, it's a very interesting one. The women that come to see me, the reason they do see me is because they are overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed. And so with my work, I take away the overwhelm. And one of the biggest overwhelms for women is understanding, especially when they get to a certain age, why have I tried everything and nothing's working? And so my techniques work. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this. And and I also help to take away the overwhelm for them by helping them structure it into their lifestyle. So yes, there's a ton of advice out there, as we all know. And I think what ends up happening with a lot of people is that for a while they think, okay, I can do this on my own. It's easy enough. It seems simple enough. But when we get into our late 30s, our 40s, and our 50s, our bodies change dramatically. And for women, we're also going through perimenopause and menopause, which just compounds the fatigue, the stress, the decline in certain hormones that we need to keep our energy up and our brain focused. And so with that, women who are already running a home and in senior leadership positions come to see me because they're exhausted, because they're training like they used to train when they were 20, but they don't understand why this isn't working now that they're in their 40s. They're eating certain foods, but they're not realizing where they're eating just emotionally and where they're actually hungry. And so for me and my work and the experience that I've had over the last 15 years takes me straight to where I see the problem for that particular person, and I help them to adjust either the way they eat or how they're structuring their training or what type of exercise they're doing, what their post-training nutrition looks like, or just simply how they're snacking. So it really is around the type of woman that comes to see me doesn't necessarily come to see me because she's heard all this advice before. She wants help to cut through all the noise and understand how to simplify it so that she doesn't have to come back to this space ever again.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's much to learn from you, Karen, and I'm sure a lot of leaders would want to connect with you, get the best out of you in terms of what you offer, also about your masterclass that I guess is coming up soon or is already on its way. So what are the ways people can connect with you and get the best help for themselves?
I would say the best and easiest way to get directly access to me is to go straight to the website, which is www.execfuel.com.au. I do have an offer running until the middle of April where there's an extended payment plan available on all of my programs. So that's a huge bonus for those that are interested in applying for the program. So we do run applications, which just means that we do need to have a one-to-one call to see whether it's the right fit for you and whether you feel comfortable and vice versa. obviously. And yes, I do have a masterclass available at the moment. It's a free masterclass. If you go to execfuel.com.au/masterclass, there's a masterclass that you can watch at the moment, which is about fueling for performance. So teaching you how to fuel. And that's just a little bit of a bonus to show you the type of work that we can be doing with each other in the program.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you.